Hello and welcome to the Universe of God. We are starting video 7, where we are going further into the discussion of angels of light. So this is video 7, but it's technically part 3 of our series, Angels of Light. And as we discuss angels of light, and the more supernatural to natural concepts and elements of angels, we have to move deeper and higher into the primordial elements that play a part in the scientific and metaphysics and even beyond in our understanding of what we know angels to be. So we're starting this portion of the series, this third portion of the series, going into the primordial elements. We've covered a lot with angels of light, but there's more to cover, and not surprisingly so. So angels of light are found in the most primordial of elements because they are indeed primitive. Now, there are always 4 primordial elements spoken of in ancient history, in physics, in mythology, and in our understanding of what even makes up the universe. These elements are commonly known as air, fire, water, and earth. But also, people tend to include a 5th one, which is ether. Now, the ether is a primordial element that speaks of the heaven above, the sky, the universe, right? The ether is outside of our atmosphere. It's the universe. This would give us technically 5 primordial elements. But the main 4 are there because air is also ether. Okay? It's also associated with the heavens. Or the sky. So since the beginning of all creation, we have had these primordial elements. Angels, they are transcendent, and that they are also primordial elements, expressing themselves in such ways as is associated with tales of old, both true and embellished. The understanding is to realize that this does not diminish an angel to a primordial state of science, but it gives us ways to see and know multiple functions and representations of angels and angles of light. We see lightning, we hear thunder, and we can scientifically or deductively examine these elements which stem from the primordial elements that they are made of. This is like the evidence of the seen from the unseen. It is an association of the metaphysical existence of the things that we cannot see, which are said in the Bible to be eternal and everlasting, although they can change and or be altered. Now, when you come to understand the hidden worlds of the unseen, you can start to learn that what you can't see with the naked eye does actually continue to exist, even when we don't. And these worlds are representations of higher things, of higher orders, of higher worlds, higher realms, higher frequencies, as well as the lower, right? So you taking the good with the bad. We've got the higher, we've got the lower. So the point is that these things can take us higher into how we know and see God, how we see his cosmos, and how he has hidden things for us to unearth so that we can know him even more and to even know about creation differently. So God has hidden things, and he's been honest about that he's hidden a portion of himself. He's hidden things for us to discover and uncover. And this is really an adventure in many ways, depending on how you look at it, to know the Creator, to know and understand not only who you are, but whose you are. Now, again, in knowing God, we're learning about these patterns, these archetypes and templates that God produces throughout or reproduces over and over throughout creation. And they are used to describe higher orders of thinking and higher orders of operation, so to speak. Now, angels, they can be described as angles of light, lightning, stars, fire, air, or spirit, archangels, messengers, and creatures of light, because the essence of who they are all of these things. But knowing this doesn't mean that you can deduce them to some type of scientific manipulation of energies to control. That is not the sum total of what angels are, which I've shared before, and leaving out that piece of the angelic puzzle can really push us into a totally scientific mindset about the reality of this information. And doing that causes us to forfeit understanding the angelic host and what this means in an even bigger picture scale. Angels are angelic beings existing eternally, primordially, and otherworldly. Okay? So they're called messengers for a reason. They exist in a higher plane of existence, giving them the advantage of knowledge of enlightenment beyond what we are capable of at this level. They can communicate and interact with our world beyond a metaphysical encounter. In fact, they have the ability to manipulate energy and even manipulate human beings because they are from a higher order of existence. And of course, some are in the lower order of existence. But God said that He created angels to be eternal. They're spirit, they're eternal. Okay? So they've been around a lot longer than you and I, okay? And that's important to be aware of. So angels can be placed in the primordial elements box, right? They can be placed in primordial elements, the light and the energies box as well, but they cannot be kept there if we are to understand what all the evidence is pointing to. That they are beyond the constructs of just scientific understanding. That has to be understood. It needs to be clear in communicating this information about angels to a scientifically trained community who is all about what they can observe and see only. But when we look at angels in these specific scientific ways, we have to understand that we are tapping more into a world of unseen physics that gives us clues to stories of time and what ancient wise men have been communicating to the world since the days of old. This also defends the ancient world's ability to be more advanced than even ourselves in many ways. The ability to package scientific and esoteric knowledge into oral histories and recorded accounts and even children's stories is utterly genius and points us to exactly what they pointed to throughout their sharing of this genuine wisdom and knowledge. Again, helping us to understand that we cannot get caught in only the scientific explanation of angelic beings, or we will be cut off from knowing what we need to know about the world of the unseen and the elementals that we come into contact with as humans. And even biblical power has shown that these manifestations of such beings has not always been good. And concluding the Angels of Light series, we're going to go into discussing Angels of Light in the lower waters, where realms of demonically experienced, where the realms of the demonic are, and the negative experiences lie. And where these lower things operate and manifest. So this conclusion is not for this portion, however, it's for another, video. But in discussing the primordial elements, we have to understand that angels are forces and forces of nature that have the ability to manifest certain abilities and powers through these forces. When we understand that just as we are made up of energy, too, soul, spirit, and light, having consciousness, these angelic beings too are light, and they are also made up of energy and having consciousness. They are truly cosmic forces created by God to have special jobs, to adhere to strict laws in order to perform what they were created to do. And that, I believe, is to uphold the order and creation of all that God has created. Just look at the natural world to understand this in more elementary terms. Laws of physics and hydrogen, gold, water, all of these things that are created. these angelic hosts, they're in the primordial elements of these things that we can understand, such as in the laws of physics, hydrogen, even matter like gold, in terms of the elementals, the chemical compositions of these things. We are understanding our supernatural world, our unseen world, in a more scientific way, but we are doing that without robbing people from the truth, of what this means. And again, we don't want to rob people of the truth about angels of light, but we are really, we're really investigating and breaking down what we have understood as angels of light and how these things are coming forth in the scientific community. So we're bringing the supernatural and the natural together again, but it is error to only observe and know the natural and ignore the supernatural components of this. We even have something new that they've come out with called psychology grid. It's a psychology grid. I cannot think of it, and I know what this is, but the words have left me. But basically it's describing the unseen world of psychology, and now they're talking about it in terms of a science and in terms of metaphysics, and that there's this hidden world, this hidden scientific explanation, or this hidden world of energies regarding thoughts and emotions and how they interact with us in the environment, and just all these different variables surrounding psychology. And it's really amazing that they are discovering these things now, and that they are able to scientifically observe them. But again, spiritual things are spiritually discerned. And so while we come from the voice of science in some things, we also come from the voice of spirit in others, because we are not just here to scientifically understand the universe of God, but we're also here to spiritually understand the universe of God, because what is unseen is everlasting. It's what's unseen that we interact with every day, and that has its influence, and so forth and so on. It's the unseen, it's what's hidden that we are discovering and uncovering here in the universe of God. So planets, planets having orbits, sun, moon, all having orbits and seasons and galaxies, they have cosmic law and an order to run the universal machine of life. It's quite beautiful, and it's beyond just elemental. But the angels of light, these primordial elements, have their hands in this universal machine of life, okay? Our universe is conscious. We can observe these angles of light and these primordial elements doing their dance and marching in harmony, and the laws that produce the symmetry in operations. We can observe these things now. And we can observe them in the natural, and we can even observe them in the unseen, because a lot of times what happens is it's what's unseen that plays out on the scene of the scene. And so we know what's there because it's showing up. The Bible says out of the mouth springs the issues of the heart. And what's powerful about that is we cannot see the issues of your heart. We don't know what's in your heart. We don't know everything that's in your heart. But when you speak and when you talk about things, we start to see what's in your heart, okay? Without physically seeing. We start to see more and more. So, it can all look even splendid when we put these things together, these operations of these angels of light. It can all look even scientific, while it is more really a work of splendid art. And while there is an order and duality of systems, there is a free will for these cosmological things to get off track and leave their former estate or break the law, something we understand. Now we're going to come back in part 8, and we're going to go more into these primordial elements with the Angels of Light series. God bless.